Okay, so the directors I'll be working with are Daniel and Alfie, and the stimuli that we'll be using will be One Nation Under CCTV, which is obviously the Banksy graffiti mural for Alfie's group, and we'll also be looking at the social dilemma with Alfie's group, which is obviously the Netflix documentary about our addiction to social media and the detrimental impact of technology on our brains and souls. Um, with Dan, we'll be concentrating obviously on surveillance and what it means to live in a world where we are constantly being watched, supposedly. Um, and so, what we're going to do is we're going to use practitioners such as Brett Artaud and Stanislav, yeah, whatever, and combine all of those different practitioners' styles. So with Brecht, we'll be putting forth questions to the audience and saying, "What do you think about this? What does it mean to you to live in a world where you're constantly under surveillance and your human rights, which is your rights to privacy, and is taken away from you basically and being violated?" So that's very Brechtian, because Brechtian would break the fourth wall and pose questions to the audience. He wanted the audience to remain unemotional and therefore rational, because he believed that the only way they could really make a decision on something and really impact an audience would be to give them uh, practical proof, evidence of something, without having to try and emotionally sway them either way. But then Stanislavski is obviously all about naturalism, so we'll be trying to keep some of the acting very natural and realistic. So my character is the journalist, so I'll be acting as if I am just your everyday journalist. I'm trying to investigate this story based on living in a super surveillance world, whilst ironically currently being watched as I'm typing it. And I don't know how we're going to show that element of constantly being watched, but we're talking about doing it through, her body language and showing that she's kind of worried, that she's, sort of getting the impression that she's might be being filmed through her screen laptop, her laptop webcam, and also having like MI5 style spies who will be taking notes on everything she's doing. Old school. Um, with Alfie's project, we're going to be um, talking about social media being a magic trick, and the whole idea is that it's an illusion. It convinces you of something which it isn't, and you end up falling for it, and you're basically every day being tricked into thinking that something is real and it exists in this real world, in this real time, spatio-temporal time, but actually in a way it doesn't really exist at all. It's just up there in the cloud. It's a falsified reality, but it's slowly seeping into our real reality. And what we're going to be doing is showing how people are so indoctrinated to try to be part of this virtual reality that they're only doing things in real life so that then they can earn credit online. And we're going to very exaggerate, hyperbolize that notion. So when someone is out and about and they help a dog who's been hit by a car, for example, they won't help the dog until it's filmed, because only when it's filmed and it's put online are people going to know and go, "Oh my god, that was just so generous, oh my god." And then we'd have clips of people clapping and the national anthem playing over the top. And if someone goes and helps a homeless person, they won't do it until it's filmed on that smartphone, and they won't then get recognition for it until it's uploaded online. So that's just like, yeah, exaggerating the bizarreness of what we've got going on, particularly with really famous people on social media who are always trending for doing good things and being good people. So that's what I know so far about my director's vision. Obviously now, due to COVID, it's all going to be filmed online, so we're going to have to overcome those obstacles. And it'll be interesting. I think what's really quite ironic is that we're doing plays about surveillance and monitoring and the damaging effects of technology, and we're going to be doing it all over on smartphones and sharing them online. And at the moment our means of communication is Facebook. That's what the college use. And so I think it's quite interesting. It's like the way that we're communicating with one another as students, as actors, as a company, is through social media, whilst we're writing something about the damaging effects of social media. So yeah, it could be a play within a play, couldn't it? Anyway, we'll also be using Arto. I haven't mentioned him yet, but I think with Alfie's project, there's going to be a lot of sound, a lot of strange ways of using our voice, down the phone and saying things like social media is a magic trick, and I will not be heard, which is the idea that you act as if everybody's hearing you, but nobody's actually hearing you. Nobody's actually getting through to one another. There's this sort of barrier, this existential barrier, and everyone's so caught up in their own world that they're not really communicating at all. They're not really listening to each other. Skills needed. So liaising with peers obviously is important. Ability to follow directions. Researching around the topic is obviously very good. So I've been mind mapping the stimulus, mind mapping what possible ideas, possible practitioners we could use. And more. There'll be more research to do once we know a little bit more about our topics, and where our narrative is going. So, for example, with Dan's project, I've been researching the character of a journalist. What should she wear? How could she speak? Just generally, her characteristics and her name, her character name. So that's all on my research. What do I know now which I didn't know before? Well, I think I've realised through this that, it's quite difficult to not be in a physical space together as actors, because if anything, it's just you don't feel very motivated. You don't, obviously when you go into college, you're in a group where you can get ideas flowing, and you can build up an energy. Whereas over Facebook Messenger and over Teams and everything, you just kind of you feel like you're all in your own little worlds, and there isn't that connection, which I think you need in drama. So I've learned, that acting virtually is quite difficult. It can be quite isolating, but also there's something quite diplomatic about it, because sometimes when you're in the studio and we're all there and we've all got ideas, we tend to talk over each other, and we tend to want our ideas to be put first, and people will say, oh no, we should do like this, we should do that. But now we've only got one director, and we have two directors, but we have two different groups. We have one director for each play, and they put forth the ideas, and you're at home, and then you just get on with it and you film it, and then you send it back to them. And in that way, I think it cuts out a lot of the crap, a lot of the confusion, a lot of the unnecessary deliberating. If Dan says to us, can you film this, and then send it back to me, and you just do it, you just get on with it. And some other issues I've had is with my camera. So my phone camera, it keeps glitching all the time, and obviously I've got to film these scenes of me as this journalist. So I'm now waiting for my digital camera to be fixed, which should be in the next couple of days. But that obviously puts things on hold. So technology-wise, it can be, quite difficult when, I don't have a lot of money to just buy a new camera. So, getting my dad to pay to fix my other camera, and my phone, you can't always rely on technology, basically. So that's an issue, because obviously if you were just performing it in the physical theatre space, we wouldn't need all of these things. Obviously if we were filming it anyway, we'd have media groups, so we'd have hopefully their facilities that we could use. So other skills that I'd like to work on, again, is time management. Although, I mean, it's kind of a weird one, that, because at the moment I'm kind of just trying to do that more generally about getting up, going outside, taking the dogs for a run, just organising my day, because obviously lockdown can be quite depressing otherwise. So hopefully that will lead into when I go back to college, and when the evenings aren't as dark, just being more motivated when I get home, and trying to stay positive. So organisation, that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm working on, and I'm going to evidence that I'm working on it, because I've made a timetable. So yes. Body work, so voice is something that I'm just working on my own time. Coordination and flexibility, that's generally something that I'm going to work on hopefully throughout this lockdown period, because the time outside is a good time to do like yoga and running. But at the moment we haven't had much opportunity to do much physical stuff with our projects. So yeah, that's it basically.